Okay. Welcome back, y'all. This is episode 2 officially of the Vital Pursuit podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. Today we are in a little bit different of a spot. We're not in the garage, as you can probably notice. We are in my buddy's basement, and that buddy being the first official guest of the podcast. So we are with Tommy Chaffin today. Tommy Chaffin. Good to freaking have you, man.
It's awesome to be here.
Good to have you. First official guest on the podcast, so bear with us. We don't know what we're doing yet. We got everything set up last night. Hopefully everything looks good and sounds good for you. We're going to start, just like I said with the first podcast, everything is laid back here. This isn't a stressful environment. Everything's for fun right now, and we're just having a good time. So we're going to start with a bit of an introduction, let you guys get to know what I know about Tommy. And then as we go, we're going to get to know him a little bit better together. So Tommy, you are a Korean American. You're an athlete. You're a full-time police officer, a violin player, business owner, lover of all things outdoors, YouTuber, husband, father, friend, and the most important thing, my friend. And you have a new addiction to archery, which is completely my fault. So yeah, getting into bow hunting and all sorts of things. So a lot going on there.
Yeah. It's good to stay busy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Staying busy is kind of what life seems to revolve around these days as a dad and husband, and the plate gets pretty full pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty quick. So that's who you are. I kind of plan when I have a guest to do a little bit of a life story, but I want it to kind of be at the pace of the person that I'm talking to. So I don't want to write out their whole life story and tell it from my perspective. I kind of want them to walk us through the story, and we'll stop and hit bullet points if necessary. And if not, we'll come back to stuff later. Basically how I've structured the guest podcasts is, the conversational flow. And I do have a few questions along the way to ask, because I think everybody in the world that I'm friends with and have been blessed enough to be friends with all have very specific stories. And I think each one of those stories has so much to offer for so many people who might be in the same boat or might be in a different boat, but might be able to relate to things that, each guest I have is going through specifically. And I know I've just been blessed to have so many friends who have so much to give as far as what they've been through and the things that they've overcome in their life. And Tommy is definitely no different, even though we've, interesting fact here, we've only been friends for what's it been? We met for the first time in August?
In person, yeah.
In person, yeah.
What, nine months
So,
coming up on?
Roughly 9 months, and yeah, I don't know. It's been easy.
Yeah, it's just kind of flowed.
Yeah, never was work, which is always something I look for in a friendship, is when it's not work, So let's dive in. We'll let you walk us through your life. Where you started, I guess, probably in probably your mom, and then from there we'll just move right on down the line and get us to present day where we're at. So I
kind of been all over. I was born in Korea, South Korea. I was adopted at 6 months old, so never really knew my parents. So my adopted parents are who I consider my mom and dad. Kind of moved around, started living in Phoenix for the first couple of years of my life, just based on my dad's job. Then we moved to, Kentucky. Did that for a little bit, and then I've been in Minnesota since 2001. So did all my high school, all that in Minnesota. And then, kind of just been going on since then. So, more on childhood stuff like that, or what?
Yeah, whatever, I guess the ultimate goal is to get to what makes you. So
Mm-hmm.
As we go through this, if there's specific things in your childhood that you think stand out, as far as, I know for me, there's a lot of things that I went through as a kid or that happened to me as a kid that ended up down the road playing a big role
Hmm.
in how I think about things and how things are shaped in my brain. So, yeah, same thing. If
Yeah.
there's anything that you think helped make you who you are or hurt who you are or whatever, just,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
okay, yeah, that's fair. Well, I came from a big family. There's five of us total. I'm the oldest, so I had two brothers, two sisters.
The
So
adopted family is what you're referring to. So the family that adopted you, correct?
yep, yep,
Okay,
yep, that's
perfect. All
correct.
right, just
Yep,
want to
sorry for
clarify
that.
there. Nope, you're good.
So yeah, two brothers, two sisters. My parents really believed in getting us into a lot of activities, whether that be sports. We all had to play sports. We also had to do music. Each of us had to play an instrument.
Oh, okay.
From like early childhood on to graduation. So they gave us a choice of piano, cello, or violin.
Okay.
So I chose violin, so I played that from ages 5 to 18, 19.
Oh, okay.
So looking back on it, it did teach me a lot of like just dedication, perseverance, like trying to get a young boy to practice every single
Yeah,
day. Like
for
I'd rather be outside playing and stuff,
sure.
but
Right.
it teaches you dedication to something, not giving up. Um, then we also had to be in sports. So my two were baseball and soccer. Fell in love with baseball more so. Um, Dedicated a lot of time, a lot of hours. Um, just out in the yard by myself. My dad usually was my coach, so he would,
Oh, cool.
yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. He'd always push you the hardest, all
Mm.
me and my brothers. Um, I just remember like when we go to the field and he'd just whip it as hard as he could, like hitting it. He's like, if you can catch any of this stuff, you're going to catch anything these
Mm.
kids can hit at you. Taught me to be tough, um, but just gave me that love for like team sports and competitiveness. And it's something that I hope to pass on to my kids,
Mm.
as they get older and can get into sports. Um, so yeah, those were the two biggest things I think for growing up that I look back and like with the fondest memories, like sports. And then my mom will love to know this, but like looking back, like playing violin and the opportunities that that afforded me. Um, my youngest sister, we adopted from China, so I got to
Oh,
go over
okay.
there in 2003.
Okay.
We went there, me and my dad for 2 weeks, and I got to play my violin on the Great Wall of China.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
not something you hear every
yeah,
day.
yeah. So like just things like that. Like I got to go to Mexico for 2 weeks to help build um, a brand new music school for kids and stuff. So just like the opportunities that afforded me,
Sure.
um, that you kind of take for granted just growing up. Like, oh, everybody gets to do this, but in reality, you're like,
Right.
those were actually really special,
Yeah, super cool.
moments.
Wow.
Yeah, and then um, I think it just made me those lessons and those foundations growing up kind of propelled me into doing what I'm doing today and like stuff you just don't forget, like persevere through, the good, the bad. You got to just keep going. Um, you think you can relate more of that to sports, like losing in a game, like you can't give up, you got to keep going.
Sure.
So yeah, I was blessed. Lord has definitely blessed me with a good family upbringing, strong Christian values, strong, like my dad, um, just look up to him like as a man, as a father. Um, he went through a bunch of stuff too, and being able to like watch him persevere and
Sure.
be strong through all of that stuff, like really gave, I think, all three of us, especially the boys, like that's what a man should be of like providing for your family, trusting in God through thick and thin, because he went through a lot. So um
Hmm.
yeah, well I sometimes go back and think of like what if I hadn't been adopted? Like, what does my life look like? But like
Jeez,
knowing
that's a
God,
rabbit
like,
hole.
yeah, like, but like God obviously has a plan of like, this is where I wanted you to be. This is exactly the family that I want you in for whatever I have planned for you down the um in the future. So um every once in a while it's just good for me to take a like a pause and like I am very blessed, and like
Mm,
things could have been so much differently had, what would I have been doing,
right.
So,
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting, something to drop back and touch on a little, talking about your dad being your coach with sports. So I know for me personally, we're both obviously dads now, and something I think about a lot is, I guess, how hard do I want to be on my kids? My dad was really hard on me.
mhm,
There was not much breaks, and there was not always a ton of encouragement as much as correction. But I definitely think for me that was necessary. Like I think everybody's
mhm,
different. For me, I think I would have been a real screw off if I didn't have that amount of like pressure
mhm,
to stay on the course. So I guess for me, I'm kind of thankful for that. But I often think about like with my kids, what approach, if I want to take that same approach. And I guess it depends a lot on the kid,
yeah,
learning to
mhm,
know, like, okay, does little Johnny need to be pressured,
mhm,
to stay on the course, or is he on the course? And I just kind of need to be like a lot of times I think about parenting as like, remember when we were little and you go play bowling and
mhm.
there's like
The
the,
bumpers,
the, yeah, the
yep,
little bumpers. A lot of time I think of a parent as like the bumpers.
mhm.
Like they're going down the lane, they're going in the right direction. I'm just there to kind of keep them
Down
from
in there, yep.
flying off course and ending up in somebody else's lane. So I guess, yeah, do you think you would kind of parent the same way that you were parented, or do you think you would go a little bit different of a route as far as, how your dad parented you, I guess?
I think I take things that I liked and looked up to and try to apply those and like then just try to make my own version of parenthood, right? It's all our first time going through this and
None know what we're doing.
yeah, it's just you're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to like what you were saying, yeah, in sports he was very hard, like the loudest one there, yelling, you messed up, everybody knew it.
Yeah.
But then and like yeah, you had that pressure, but I also think like that that's where you grow. Like
Sure.
you learn to adapt to that, and then um, I do think it goes back, yeah, kind of based on what is your child's personality, character. Like I would probably agree with that. It's individual. Like, do they need that? Um, like my youngest, even like the slightest hint of a raised voice, that's all they need. Like
Yeah,
all it's all just an immediate turnaround. Um, so I think it's just based on the kid as they grow up. Boy, girl. I think boy and girl also has you know a factor in that.
for
Like,
sure. Yeah.
um, so being a girl dad too,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit different, but um, yeah, I think I just take what I liked and remember most about growing up, like through that with what my dad, how my dad like led us and everything, and then try to apply some of that while also leaving room for like just individual like how I foresee parenting, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I said, we're all just trying to one day at a time, and
Right.
you can only do what you can do. So
Right. Yeah. We're all piecing it
yeah,
together.
oh,
I think that's a really good takeaway from like the discussion of how our parents parented is, I think you have to be careful in general in life of doing anything with a blanket. Like anything that you just like, this is this way for all time,
yeah,
or this is how you parent for all kids, or
hmm,
like I think that can be really damaging. So it's like learning to have enough emotional maturity to be able to pivot per kid, like you just said, being able to leave the bad that our parents might have done and take the good and not allow it to.
I also think like the challenges were different. Like growing up,
Yeah,
like technology was not a big thing, but now I think we also have to navigate that as our kids get older. Like,
yeah.
what about cell
Jeez,
phones? What about the internet? Like
what a mess.
all that stuff. So yeah, I just think it's a different time too. So yeah, back to your point of not having like a blanket thing, like you just can't. It's just so much has changed and it's like constantly changing,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I didn't really have this as necessarily a question, but now that you were talking about it, for those of you that don't know, faith is a huge part of my life, and I am a born again believer, and God is the Lord of my life and always will be. I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. You'll find that out pretty quick as I talk. I don't always sound like the best Christian, but it is the most important thing in my life and my family's life. And obviously, you were talking about their faith being a huge part of how you were brought up. And I guess something that always interests me with everybody is maybe the question of when did your faith really become yours? I know for me, most of my childhood was motions, I think,
Hmm.
just because, sometimes it's hard to believe in something until you struggle and see that thing really come through for you,
Hmm.
right? And then it becomes real. So I guess the question there would be, when did it seem like it was real for you and not so much of just a piggyback thing off of what you were taught, maybe?
Um, that's a good question. I would say probably in the last 4 or 5 years. Probably as we go along, you'll learn a lot more about me, but um, obviously went through some big ups and downs, and just realizing, you can say the right things, but if you're not following those up with actions, like it
Mm,
doesn't mean anything. It's kind
yeah,
of it's empty. So it really became real of like, I can't do this life on my own. I can't do all of this on my own. And what I'm professing is not matching up with actions, right? So I think that was a big awakening. I'd probably say end of 2020, 2021. Got into some good Christian counseling and really um, just kind of delved into all that because, like, yeah, I grew up full Christian home. Um, I saved at 11. I remember that vividly. Um, like baptized 13, 14. But yeah, I think it was a lot of just this is what we do, right?
mm,
As
right,
growing up
right,
and being in a Christian school and stuff. Um, but also I guess not being mature enough to really take what I had done to heart and like really profess that and try to live that day in and day out, um, until about, yeah, 4 or 5 years ago is when it became like, I think, my own of like, okay, all this needs to change. What I've been doing has not been well. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, you kind of made my point for me there. Like it's hard to really believe in something until you see that thing. It's like gravity, right? Like, why
Yeah.
do we believe in gravity? Well, because if I fall out of this chair, I'm gonna
Hmm.
smack my ass on the floor. So I don't know. It's definitely, I
It's
think
easy to
it's
say until you're tested, and then when
absolutely,
you're
yeah,
you're like, okay, what am I?
right.
You know.
Yeah,
So
like, oh yeah, God is the Lord of my life until,
yeah.
like until things are not easy. And then yeah, that's cool
Or
to
if it
see.
gets too easy, you start to rely on yourself. You're like, oh, I got this. And,
Right.
why do I need that? And why do I need him?
Right.
And then he has a way of humbling you
Truth,
and,
man.
you need to come back to me,
That's the
so.
truth. I'm gonna quote Mama Eder here. My mom always, and boy did I hate this when she used to say it to me. It's funny how life changes as you go. But she always would say, I'd be like, man, why is life so hard? If God loves us and He wants what's best for us, why sometimes is life so damn hard? And she would always say the same thing, like, Drew, sometimes God has to put you on your back, so the only place you can look is up.
That's all.
And it was always like, man, I'm so tired of hearing that. But now, from being on my back for so much of my life, I'm like, yeah,
It makes sense.
it really like sucking at things and messing things up and just repeatedly failing and
Hmm.
letting my friends down and letting my family down. Nothing has brought me closer to God than seeing my own imperfection through life as you get older.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It's a crazy,
Yeah.
crazy journey for sure. So, timeline, I think we kind of stopped around high school. So let's jump out of high school. You made it out of there without any giant problems. It's always a win. Next would be college or jobs after high school. Let's walk through the next chapter here.
Yeah, yeah, after high school, during high school, I did here in Minnesota called PSEO or post-secondary education. So you could go to college full time while still being a high school student while getting credits. Um, and my goal at that point was to go to the military, want to do the Marines. So tried to focus on that. I knew it was going to be military or police because my dad was a cop back in the day in Phoenix,
Really?
back in the 80s.
Okay, I didn't
Yep.
know that.
Yep. So that kind of hearing his stories kind of like started sparking my interest in that career field. I knew from a long time I wasn't going to be a behind the desk person. Um, so kind of focused schooling on law enforcement related. Um, did some odd job construction. Got into digital printing. I did that a while, like those big printing machines for
Oh,
like billboards and stuff like
oh,
that.
cool.
Worked at Target. Um, I think it's good to get retail experience, deal with people.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and then um, I just felt called to like policing, things like that. So I became a community service officer, which is like a step down from a police officer. You're working towards getting your license out of the police officer. So you do like animal calls, things like that, but you get to work in the department.
Okay.
Um, so those are my three or four main jobs because I was kind of always on a one track path. Like I knew like this is where I want to end up. So how do I
That's cool.
best put myself in the advantage to getting there? So I kind of have a boring work history, but it's all like I feel like stepping stones to where I want to be or where I wanted to be
Yeah,
going there. So,
that's super cool.
so I was able to be a community service officer for my hometown Maple Grove here in Minnesota. Um, and did that for like a year, and then I was like, I want to have an adventure. I'm young. During that time, I also got married. Got married in 2013. I was 20 years old,
Okay.
so very, very, very young.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I got married in 2013, and then wanted to have an adventure while I was young. So 21 years old, moved down to Dallas, became a police officer there. And that was just a culture shock for um,
Yeah, right.
going from a small suburban Minnesota town to just a multi-million person metropolis
Mm,
of just every walk of life, every race, every just everything. I remember just like, what did I get myself into? It was just, but it was good at the same time. I was like nervous, but I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like,
mm,
this is what I want. And one of the things I try to live by is like not having regrets. So I'd rather try something and it work out or it doesn't work out, and at least I know
mm,
than ever having to wonder like, what if I did,
Those what
what
ifs
if I
keep
did
you up
this?
at
Yeah.
night. They do.
Um,
They do.
so that's one of my driving factors in life is like I'd rather try something and then figure out, you know what, it's not for me, than have to look back and be like, oh, what if I just what if I just tried it? What would have happened? You know? So
Mm,
I think that's kind of what drove me to go like down to Dallas. So,
that's
you
cool.
know.
Yeah, man, that boy does that resonate with me. The idea of the what ifs,
Hmm.
that's our Instagram culture. There's a reel going around that I love. It's Matthew McConaughey, and he's on the Modern Wisdom podcast, which is interesting because that's a podcast I freaking love. But they're talking about that very thing, and he's like, if you're gonna do it, do it.
Yeah.
Don't over leverage yourself. Don't If you can do it, do it. If you can't, don't. But like never half-ass it. Don't go into something not planning on seeing it through.
Hmm.
Like even if it fails, that's a win because now you know. Like now I know that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But the scariest part of life, I think, to me, is getting to a point where I have time to look back and being like, man, what did I leave on the table?
Hmm.
Like what opportunities or paths or, you know, friendships or what did I leave on the table because I went into something not wholeheartedly.
Hmm.
Like I'd rather do two things and do them very well, you
Hmm.
know. That's just something I've always
I mean, God gave us one life, and I think we need to
right.
honor him by living it the best that we can and exploring as many avenues that he's provided for us. Otherwise, I think
Right.
it's just why, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, I mean if he didn't want us to yeah, I mean I don't know. I'm a big outdoorsman as we all know and you know you are too and it's like I think about that sometimes. It's like man, how much of an adventure did he want us to have?
Hmm.
Like this could have been like the point of us choosing him. You know, we think about like the Christian life, like he wanted us to choose him, right? So there's a choice that has to be made.
Hmm.
And it's like that could have been done in a black box, but like instead we got the Tetons
Yeah.
and we got the sunsets and
Hmm.
we got white-tailed deer and like all the things that make
Just the
us
beauty of nature.
both so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible like to think about the adventure that he wanted us to have, you know. I don't know, it's crazy. And it sounds like, you know, you were having a heck of an adventure in Dallas for sure. So that's awesome. It's cool. It's cool that you took a leap of faith, you know,
Hmm.
tried something new. So that's awesome. So Dallas, cop there for a while. How many years?
Four and a half.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess what, obviously you're back in Minnesota. We're sitting
Hmm.
in Minnesota.
Yep.
So
Yep.
unfortunately it's cold and
Yes.
rainy and
Yep.
not nice right now. But what do you think led you back? If it was such a great adventure and you were having such a awesome time, what brought you back?
The goal was always to come back
Okay.
at some point. Time frame at that time was like 5 to 7 years, get a bunch of experience, and then use that to get a good paying job here with a good department. Um, so kind of cut it short. Had some stuff happen in Dallas, just work wise that, um, just really put life into perspective of like,
Mm,
you may not walk away from this. By that time I had my two daughters. So just a young family and just like the impact of the job of, this is life and death. And,
mm,
you know, I lost a friend in 2018, ambushed and killed,
I didn't know that.
April, yep,
Sorry to
April
hear
of
that.
2018. Um, was in a pretty severe car accident while on duty, was hit by a drunk driver like a year before that. Um, so just I think all that cumulative stuff plus everything that you just see um, in a city like that just kind of led up like we need a slower pace of life. We need to go. At the time, my wife's family, all and my family too, all lived in Minnesota.
Okay.
So it was hard for them not being able to see their grandkids and cousins and aunts and
Sure.
uncles
Yeah.
because it was just us down there. So we decided to come back up or move back up and get a job here. So yeah.
Boy, it's hard living somewhere you don't have that like, excuse me, that like support team around you.
No, yeah.
That's tough.
It really is. And you learn it really quick of, okay, I got to make this work because I brought us down here. So, um, yeah, I mean, our parents were supportive, and like I know when we fell on like hard times, like um, financial, my dad was always there, and whether that just be encouragement or here's some money to get you through to your next
Mm,
paycheck. So, um, but it is something to be said for like actually physically having help there, support there, just
yeah.
to like even just going over for dinner and like just being surrounded by people that love you and support you.
Yeah.
I think that does a lot too, just for like your mental health and just all
Mm.
that too. Can get feel kind of isolated when you're not with
Oh, for
like a
sure.
family or
Yeah.
things like that. So
Isolation is it's a dangerous thing, man. And I think as males, like I'm sure you can relate to this a little bit. Like the first thing I want to do when I'm struggling is be isolated. Like by
mhm,
nature, the
mhm,
first thing I want to do is run away and
yep.
be by myself and like I don't know why. I don't know if I've ever learned why because I'm definitely not like an isolation type of a person. Like I
Mhm,
thrive with people,
yeah.
but always when things are hard, I just am like, oh, I just gotta get by myself. And
Mhm,
so many times I think that's a damaging habit that I have because, another wise person I quote a lot is my wife, and you guys will get to meet her here soon. She's going to be on the podcast. But, she always says, what if all of the things you tell yourself aren't true? What if
Hmm.
you're wrong? And it's not a crazy deep statement until you think about how often do you have a thought and think, well, that's not true.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I'm hungry. Of course I'm hungry. Or I'm tired. Of course I'm tired.
Hmm.
Well, I'm really good at that. Are you? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, or, well, this person feels this way. Do they?
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Start
know.
overthinking and analyzing.
Right.
I wonder if like just going back to where we were talking about like our dads, do you think it's like we learned it from them? Like just
Absolutely. Yeah.
like we didn't see I didn't never saw my
In
dad
my case,
cry
yeah, for sure.
maybe once or twice.
Right.
Just they had problems, we never knew it, you know. So I don't know. I think a lot of times we do
Yeah.
model it after
I
those
never
things
even
too.
thought about that until now. But like now that you mention it, my dad was extremely he would isolate bad when things weren't going well. Whether it be between him and my
Hmm.
mom or him and us or whatever, he would isolate for sure. And I never put that together until you mentioned it, but I'm sure that has a ton to do with it. Learned behaviors or
Hmm. Yeah.
the crazy thing about learned behaviors is you're learning them and they're happening when you don't even realize it, right? And
Hmm.
like then you don't realize like I just didn't even put that together. Like I'm choosing to do it now, but like why, And
Hmm.
it's a very fine line with me. Like my family was not perfect and we have a lot of crap, but you know, I'm very careful to never blame anything I do or any mistakes I've made on my past.
Yeah.
Not that they do not shape it and affect it, but at the end of the day, I made the bad decision.
Hmm.
And there's kids who have horrible upbringings that make stellar decisions their whole life, So I think you have to be careful, at least for me, to not use upbringing as like I don't
Yeah.
know. And I don't think there's definitely people who have it way worse than me, obviously. And, for them to have a different feeling on that is obviously valid. But I know for me, it's always been hard. People ask that question. Well, do you think this is because something you were taught? And my always initial answer is no, it's just me, because
Hmm.
I just don't like shifting blame. And it's not, it's just
Yeah.
it's a realization of what's actually happened in your life, but I know I've always been so like nervous to shift blame. But even that is something I was taught.
Hmm.
Like you never shift blame. You
You just accept
always
it, accept responsibility.
you did the dumb thing, so you are going to own the dumb thing, right? Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna blame that dumb thing on somebody else. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. So Dallas came back, and I think the next chapter is obviously a heavy chapter. But we're here together
Hmm.
because of that chapter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm obviously not the best silver lining in this story, but I'm certainly going to count myself as a silver lining. No, but for real, yeah, this is a heavier chapter of your life, and I want to thank you genuinely as your friend for being willing to talk about it with me,
Hmm.
because I know it's not easy. So I appreciate you trusting me a year or less into this
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
talk to me about stuff. So, yeah, we're in Minnesota. Things start to not go so well.
Hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Um, where do we start with that? Um, so yeah, we moved back to Minnesota. I was not mature back then. I kind of held resentment. Like Dallas is where I wanted to be. Um, I had kind of made a name for myself in the department and had several things lined up and ready to go, and then obviously had to move back. So um, that was a shortcoming of mine. I was kind of also just living for myself, selfishly. Like even though I had a family, it was more like, what can I get out of all of this? Like what's in it for me? Um, and yeah, we moved back in 2018, and was I was an officer out in a city called Elk River,
Okay.
for a little bit. And then my goal was always to make it back to my home department or my hometown. Um, so what was it, 2021? We just getting into this. We're
Mm.
just straight into it. Yeah, so 2021, um, yeah, ended up I had an affair. Um, so that comes with its whole another set of challenges. There's a lot of reasons why it happened. There's no excuse. Um,
Mm.
I sinned. Um, One of the worst sin. There's not a ranking of sin,
Sin is
but
sin, bro.
a sin is
Mm.
sin. But it didn't just affect me now, right?
Sure.
It's affected my family, my like core family, my kids, friends, um, the church I was a part of. It affected our small group. Um, and so that going back to like when did faith like become real to you? It was during that time of I had been living for myself, very selfish, and like going back, like God has a way of he's like if you're trying to rely on yourself, I'm going to take everything away, so the only thing you have is me.
Mm.
Um, and I had to learn that the one of the hardest ways I think possible because um, I ever lost everything. Obviously, we got divorced. Um, Lost my church group. Everybody left. To this day, I haven't. No one's
Mm.
talked to me, reached out, and not saying they should. Everyone has different, you know, views um, on affairs and infidelity and one thing that uh, I forgot who told me this, but it was everyone says like, oh, how could somebody, but like I
Mm.
you don't plan on it happening, right? And then
Right.
it can. Um, so yeah, that 2021 um, got divorced, and that was it was a wake up call of like, what are you doing with your life? Like I had to really come to grips with like I'm not the one in control. I have I, I have to turn back to God because I he he's the only one who's giving me strength, the only one supporting me through this. I had my parents and that's all I had. Parents and myself. It was a very 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 lonely time. Um and it's something like looking back on now, I can take a lot of lessons from, and um, that I hope to one day tell my kids about of where I went wrong, both as a man, as a Christian, just as a person, um, and maybe help prevent something like that from happening to them. And then also just being a testimony of God's grace and forgiveness, in that um, there's nothing that He can't forgive. There's nothing and nobody that He can't use.
Mm.
Um, because I struggle with that of like, what's my purpose now? Like
Mm.
I'm and I still honestly sometimes I still struggle with it of like, can He use me,
Mm.
or like am I too far tainted now of did I make the ultimate mistake? Um, but like what you said, like sin is sin. There's no like no ranking of sin, right? It's
Right.
we're imperfect, and that's why Christ died for us, right? And He lived the perfect life so that we don't have to.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that I think that just kind of goes into like some of our next points of just like what does divorce mean, and like going through that struggle of
Mm,
I think it was a wake up call of it's not just me. It affected, well, my now ex-wife, like her family. It affected my kids because I made a choice, right? Like I was aware of the consequences that could happen. They had no say in it, right? And now all of a sudden they're in in a divorce home, right? And
mm.
child custody, things like that, going back and forth between moms and dads, and they didn't have a say.
Didn't
Uh,
choose it. They
yeah,
didn't
no,
choose it.
they didn't choose it. They didn't deserve that. Um, and like I said, they still don't understand. Like you don't, I don't know if you can explain that to young kids right now because they're still pretty young. But I promise to tell them, like, you know what, when you're ready to understand it and you're able to understand it, I'm going to answer every question that you have. I'm not going to shy away from anything. Like I said, it can use it to um, one, like show them where I went wrong. Um, and hopefully, should they ever start finding themselves going down that path, like try to keep them from making the decisions that I made. And then also just trying to use it as a testimony to people who have gone through it and have um, turned their life around as well, or people that are still just lost in that and try to like, hey, this is exactly what I went through. Here's where I struggled. This is how I got help. Um, and there is redemption at the end. There is a way out. There is a way where you can't, well, you can't change the past. You can use what happened to further Christ's kingdom, as well as just uh, for lack of a better word, like you move on from that mistake, and you know the only thing you can do is get better. And um yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of just
I get it.
stumbling on the words, you know.
I get it. I don't get it. It's, I don't want to be careful saying I get it. I've obviously never walked in your shoes, so I don't get it. But I feel like two things I'm compelled to say is, first of all, you wonder sometimes if God can use you, and I would say He's using you right now.
Hmm.
Um, I think He's using you as my friend to teach me things, and I think He's using you to teach your daughters things. And I think there's specific lessons that they need to learn that only you are able to teach them.
Hmm.
And I mean that. And I think that everything God has used to now shape you to be a person that I chose to be friends with. You can go
Hmm.
upstairs right now and ask my wife how many friends she has that have husbands that I don't want to be friends with.
Hmm.
Because there's nothing there. There was nothing there, and they're fine guys, but there was nothing there.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, He's using you.
Hmm.
So don't ever hang your head low about that. I think we've all screwed up, dude.
Hmm.
And, you know, whether or not that's something I've ever done, I have not, but I have treated people in ways that I can't even begin to explain right now. So we've all done things that
Hmm.
we would give anything to change,
Hmm.
right? But at the same time, I'm really careful to not wish too much to change my mistakes, because out of every single mistake, I mean, again, look where
Hmm.
we are, you know?
Hmm.
So the pain is obviously a hard reminder that never really goes away, to remind us that wrong is wrong and it'll always be wrong,
Hmm.
but God's grace, right?
Hmm.
And redemption is such an incredible word, like, that I don't think
Hmm.
we'll really truly ever mean until we're with Him
Yeah.
and can really understand what that means. But I think you're such a good example of that, and I just think you have so much to give to your girls,
Hmm.
in the world. And whether or not this podcast ever reaches anybody or not, your life will.
Hmm.
You interact with people every day. and you've chosen a career that will always have you interacting with people, and obviously you can't sit down and have a emotional connection with every one of them,
Hmm.
but like you are in a position to make a difference in your community
Hmm.
because there's people who hate you and there's people who look up to you greatly.
Hmm.
And a person who has both haters and fans is someone who has incredible amounts of positive influence, I think. And I
Hmm.
think you're right there, man. So one question I was going to ask, which I
Yep.
think you probably already kind of answered it, is what is the hardest part about being divorced at such a young age? And if you don't feel like you've answered it and you want to hit it again, that's fine. But that's just something, I think I've never been divorced, but I think boy, going to college, man, it's both sad and crazy how many friends of mine got divorced in that same time slot
Oh, really?
of that age. And I think immaturity is like the cause, right? Like
Hmm.
you get married, and like you said in your own words, I was immature. I was dumb. I was doing dumb stuff. And
Yep.
I think by the grace of God, the reason I'm not divorced is because I didn't get married till I was like 22. And I
Hmm.
think those 2 years made a big difference
Yeah.
for me. I grew a lot in those 2 years. And I can tell you right now, if I would have got married at 20, probably wouldn't be still married. Like,
Yeah.
because I was such an idiot. Like, I was just such an idiot. And when you say living for yourself, like, I totally relate to that. Like
Hmm.
that's exactly what 20-year-old guys do.
Hmm.
Like we can't see past the end of our nose. We're just out for us. So I don't think that's uncommon. But yeah, there's so many people that me and Cassie went to school with who are divorced and got divorced either then and that time. I think most of them got divorced between that 20 to 25 time frame, and it's just yeah, I think it's immaturity, but
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think? I mean, do you think the hardest part of that is just the kids? Or do you think it's the change for all the relationships? Or, you know,
I mean, I think all of those play a factor, but I think if I didn't have kids, some of those would be bigger,
mm,
like the loss of like community,
sure.
um, lifelong friends, and like I said, everybody is going to have a different viewpoint and opinion on those topics, infidelity, things like that, and doesn't make you right, doesn't make you wrong if you are like, I can't associate with you, right? But I think having kids and being able to take a step back and like, whoa, the decision I made, it affected them. And like going back, they didn't have a say at all. So I think when it comes to divorce and you have kids, that is the biggest challenge and um, that you have to overcome of like, now how do we navigate,
Mm,
the rest of their childhood, right? Because now from now on, this is all they're gonna know is two households going back and
yeah.
forth, remarriages, things like that. So a lot of changes that they don't ask for where it's hard enough for adults to process them and go through them, but now you're a little kid trying to process all these grown up feelings that were just,
Mm,
placed upon you.
right.
Um, I think that is, yeah, I think that's probably the hardest, um,
Yeah.
the challenge of that. So,
Yeah.
and I mean, as we go on through, like, I'll probably get into way more detail should people be interested in knowing like the whole breakdown. Um, but like I said, because there's a lot
Yeah.
to that whole situation, but baseline is yeah, it was me. I had an affair.
Mm,
Um, and like I said, one day maybe we'll dive
mm.
real deep into all of that. But
You're going to be back, that's for sure. We were kicking around the idea last night. So I live in Wisconsin, 'cause that's where my wife is from. And then Tommy lives in Minnesota, obviously. And we started this thing just last month. Um, we call each other each month and do like a little monthly check-in. Just can be 5 minutes, can be 5 hours, doesn't matter. We're just talking about our month, good things, bad things that we've went through, and kind of just checking in with each other on a mental health front, I think, a big part of it. And just as a friend, and we were kind of kicking around the idea like, man, how cool would it be if we could get together every month and just do our check-in on
Yeah.
podcast, and if somebody gets something from it, how cool that would be. So who knows, down the road, maybe that's something you'll see here. But definitely I'll have you back on regardless. Yeah. So, divorce, hard,
Hmm.
terrible, dark chapter, but then God.
Hmm.
And here we are now.
Hmm.
We're sitting here. We're
Yep.
friends. We're in your basement of your new house, and you're remarried
Hmm.
to an amazing girl.
Yes.
Let's
Yep.
talk about it. Let's talk about how and why I'm here because I got to play a freaking sweet role in all this. So
Oh.
let's go up a little bit with
Yep.
this.
Yep. So yeah, that after the divorce, it was a very up and down, highs and lows. Three years. What was it 21 to
Yeah.
yeah end of 2023? So 3 years or so. Um, and then um, that I used that time for a lot of personal growth. Like I said, that was like my time of like my faith became real and like I making it my own. So like I had mentioned before, like getting into good Christian counseling and you know walking through what had happened and coping with that, but also like paving a way forward and um, just living in God's grace and forgiveness and trying to make amends and make a way forward after having everything taken, um, as well as getting counseling for some of the stuff in my professional life that you know you try to bottle up, and that's never a good idea. Just when you go
Mm.
through things in life, but bottling it up because it's going to come out one way or the other.
Yeah, I can
Um,
relate.
so then in so yeah, using that time as just a time of self improvement, um, just learning how to live life alone, right? Just
Mm.
it's me um, and my two girls, child custody, all of that. Um, and then yeah, in 2024, um, uh, November-ish, started dating Bree. Saying names, I guess we said names, huh? Uh, dating my now wife, who I had the affair with. Um, and we each took those 3 years to really do some deep self work, a lot of maturing, a lot of just like looking inwards of like where did we each go wrong in our previous relationships, um, spiritual, spiritually, all of that stuff. Um, I think as we go on through different podcasts and stuff, maybe talking about like our our upbringing
Mm.
in Christianity and just kind of how that also played into choices that were made, at least on my end. So I'm speaking for me, but
Mm.
um, really using those 3 years to make those changes that we needed to make. And then yeah, in November of 23, started dating. And we you just felt like I for me and my wife, like we have to see signs almost of like, is this where you want us, Lord? Is this what you want us to do? Is this a path? And like it seemed like at each major crossroad or each major door, um, it just opened. It just everything that we were questioning, whether it be um like family reactions, like how do the kids interact um with her or I with um my now bonus daughter. Um, everything just seemed to open. And the Lord's like, I want you to take this next step. So, going back to not doing it on your own and trusting him that he has a plan and he's had a plan since the beginning of time for your life. Take that leap. Okay, that door open. Now what do you want us to do when we get to this. And the door open. Let's take that leap of faith and just we're going to keep walking in faith through each challenge, each obstacle that we come across, trusting that He obviously has our best um, interest in my like. I don't want to say it like that. But like He has a plan for each of us,
Mm.
right? And it's our we can make a choice. We can either follow His plan or we can go astray. And I tried to go astray, right? And that did not work. So, um, yeah. And then, so just every door just seemed to open. And then in August of 2024, we got married. And it was awesome because your wife is best friends with my wife.
Yeah.
So, and I just, I don't know how much she's probably told you quite almost everything, but just like it was really cool to see um, when my wife had nobody, your
Mm.
wife was there. Just speaking truth to her, speaking encouragement. Um, and I don't even think she knows how much of a difference, that made. Um, just having someone always there for you. And they don't have to agree with what happened, but
Right.
just to still shower you with love and
Mm.
encouragement. Um, I know yeah, I didn't have that, so like just being able to see how much that meant, I like it's incredible to see and watch and um
They were not fun days. Like I remember, being on the couch with Cassie and she's crying and Bree's crying on the other end of the
mhm,
phone, and just yeah, it was tough. It was
yeah,
tough. I can't imagine not having somebody,
mhm,
like that to do that with.
yeah. So I just yeah, like just to go back, like yeah, I just it was awesome to be able to see the difference of just someone always there and what a big part that played. And then um Bria told me a lot about you. Um, and then
Yeah, my best friend's married this asshole. I don't know what to do with him. He's the worst.
and I was nervous because like I was like just on experience, like I lost everybody. I
Mm,
lost lifelong friends over this. And like I said, there's no right or wrong. Like you're gonna have your opinions, but it's hard for me to want to open up, which I'm trying to do now,
mm,
right? But um just like what are people gonna think? Like, is it kind of over in the
mm.
friend area for me or things? So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. But it's also ever since then and like I just find it a relief, like, you know what, God, I'm just gonna trust you. Like, if this is what you want, it's going to work out.
Mm.
And it's really taken a lot of stress off a lot of decisions in my life and all of that. So yeah, we were very blessed to have you officiate our wedding, and that was
Pastor, just to
yes,
clarify,
yes,
pastor,
yes,
lead the flock to the ceremony. Yeah.
and that was the first time we ever met in person. We had talked
Yeah,
on the phone.
literally, like, hi, I'm Drew. I'm marrying you.
Yep, yep. We met what 2 days before?
Yeah,
2 days
2 days
before,
before, yeah, in absolute paradise.
yeah. So we went out to Jackson, Wyoming, Tetons. That's my favorite place in the world. Um, Loved it since I was a kid. Never been there. And it was actually during the 3 years of just working on myself. I took two solo trips out there, and I nature's where I feel closest with God. Just
Mm,
being able to worship Him and be
right.
like, "Thank you so much for giving us this beauty." And um, so yeah, to be able to be married there to my best friend, um, and the one who's helped me through so much, even in just the 9 months that we've been married, and
Mm,
like unconditional love is just incredible. And um, I at times didn't know if that was ever going to be possible for me, after everything. So to be able to share that with her was just and the people that loved us and supported us and were there for us. Like, I don't think it's ever something that we'll be able to like recreate of just, like the atmosphere
No,
and
it was incredible.
all that stuff. So,
It was
yeah.
incredible. I mean, believe it or not, that's the second wedding I've officiated now. Kind of a pro. Uh, no, I mean, I think just from my perspective of doing a very traditional wedding before that, young guy meet marries young girl in love, whatever, blah blah. Um, that was different. It was different, man. Like, I mean, we were legitimately standing in the middle of the prairie, at the
Hmm.
base of a mountain. Like,
Yeah.
there's tourists snapping pictures of Grand Teton behind us. Like, it's a pretty normal
I guess we
place.
should mention we eloped.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It was a non-traditional wedding, but by far the coolest. Coolest isn't even the right word. That's dumb. So in a place like that, it would have been easy for it to feel very plastic, I think. Like, oh, we're just doing this destination wedding
mhm,
because we want the mountains in the background, which I think is a little bit of what I probably thought going into it. I didn't know you,
mhm,
and I knew Bree obviously really well, but I didn't know you, and I'm like, this is different, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And damn, was I wrong? Like, there was so much emotion and like love. It sounds so weird, but like it was so cool. Just a really special experience, with the parents there. And I think everybody just felt so connected. I felt pretty instantly connected to your guys' families that I've never met. Just,
mhm,
I think you can bond through a common pain, whether or not you all went through it in the same house or not.
mhm.
We were all a part of the same story,
Yeah.
just in different states, while it all happened. But man, it was looking back over my 29 years on this earth, like that was a highlight of my life. One of the highlights was getting to be a part of that because it was just so special. And then after that, just the day after it, just playing with the kids, having fun,
Yeah.
you know, going back to that redemption thing, it felt like a rebirth. Like it felt like
Hmm.
this is the beginning of something.
Hmm.
And this is the beginning of something that God is in.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think, it's obviously easy to want to say that, especially being the guy, because I probably never told you this, but there was some reflection on my part whether or not I thought I wanted to marry. I'm gonna be honest,
Hmm.
like, because
Yeah.
I'm like, man, is this something that I can, you know, I'm not a man of God. Like I'm a Christian. I'm not a man of God. Like I was not called to be a pastor. I got a license online to marry my brother-in-law and then to do it for you. I have no amount of spiritual wisdom that has made me do this. Let's just clarify here. I don't lead any flocks. But that being said, just personally, I was like, man, is this am I okay with this?
Hmm.
Like am I
Yeah.
okay with putting my giant hand of blessing like before the state of Wyoming legally and before God? Like am I okay putting my hand of blessing on this? And I just had to pray about it and I think it came down to like who am I? And I think that's something I come down to all the time with myself is who am I? I'll see somebody doing something I directly disagree with and my first thought is who am I? Who am I to say that I would am not one decision away from making the same mistake
Hmm.
or whatever it is. And I think I have more shortcomings than I can say, but one of them I'm glad I have not been a large part of is judging other people's sin because I just am so aware of mine. I don't
Hmm.
have any time to. I don't have any time to pay attention to anybody else's problems because mine are so big. So, but it was a bit of it was something I had to work through. And ultimately, I was just like, you know what? I believe that this is what God wants because, like you said, it's not that when God is in it, it's going to be easy,
Hmm.
but you're going to have peace about the hard. You're going to have
Yeah.
peace about the pain. Like it's still going to be hard. I can tell you right now, I married the right person. I know the girl sitting upstairs on the couch is the only person I was supposed to marry,
Hmm.
but it's not been easy.
Yeah.
And there's been pain
Yeah.
of
He
most of
doesn't
it.
promise easy.
Right.
He doesn't promise easy.
Most of the pain caused by me, but there's been pain nevertheless. But you always know when you lay down, like, this is right where I'm supposed to
Hmm.
be. It stings, but this is right where I'm supposed to be. And I guess that's what I ended up feeling with you two was like, this isn't going to be pretty the whole way.
Yeah.
And I know that.
Hmm.
And I'm signing myself up to be a part of it. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And I think that's like, I knew I wanted to be a part of her recover, like, I don't know, recovery. She's not a crackhead. Her, I knew I wanted to be a part of watching her life change for the better.
Hmm.
And I didn't know you, but
Hmm.
and I mean, to a level, I don't know Bree as well as Cassie does. I never
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But I trust my wife,
Hmm.
and my wife loves that girl, beyond
Hmm.
words. And I know that at this stage in life, she's making choices very wisely. Bree is making choices very wisely, and she chose you.
Hmm.
So I'm going to trust because talking to her, hearing those two pray together, like she's making good decisions and she is seeking God. And if you're what showed up, then that I'm on that train. Like, who am I to say that
Hmm.
the girl seeking God is not making the right decision?
Hmm.
Right. So it became easy, and I'm so honored that I got to be a part of that, man. It was so much fun. So much fun. We won't be forgetting that one anytime
Yeah.
soon.
No.
It
No.
was incredible. So incredible. Okay, so yeah, Cop, Dallas, hardship, great things. We're married. We're back in Minnesota. Blended family life. Some struggles,
Yes.
some joys. Again, we'll dive as deep as we want into things down the road. Today's probably just a little bit more of an overview, so
Hmm.
we don't have to get too crazy. But um, I think you learn a lot quickly
Yeah.
when you walk into that situation and you're forced to grow up quickly and make a lot of big boy decisions that probably aren't that easy. Um, but start with the positive. What's the best part? What's the best part of having a blended family? Which let's start with, is that the right thing to call it?
It is.
Blended
Yes.
family? I
Yep.
thought I've heard the girls say it.
Hmm.
And if you haven't figured this out yet, if the girls say it,
It's right.
it's right.
It's right. Yep.
It's right.
It's on record.
It's on record. And the girls 100% have said blended family. So I'm just repeating what they said. So yeah, what's the best part?
Um, I think it's a two prong, especially if you're blending a family, like you have kids and your spouse has kids. I think speaking from having two biological kids, I think because you don't get them all the time, right? It's gonna be split, whether 50-50 or um, otherwise. And I think it really helped me learn to make the most of the time that I have with them. Um, because you don't get them every day. So every day, like enjoying the little things, like whereas when you're tired and you're like, Dad, I want to play, and you could very easily be like, listen, I'm tired, just go play, I'll be here. But like making that conscious choice to, you know what, I'm gonna play with them because I don't get them all the time. I'm not there 24/7. So it might not sound like a good positive thing, like looking from the outside, but like having been in it and lived this blended life now for a while, that is one of the biggest positives of like slowing things down and just like really actually being invested in your kids and just spending that time with them. And then, like I said, if you're marrying into a family with kids, you get a bonus. You get bonus children. Like we don't say stepchildren like
Mm.
anything like that. It's bonus daughter, bonus son. Um, so Bree has a daughter, so bonus daughter, bonus mom and dad. Um, so I think that's a big positive. Like also being able to be a role model in their life, not taking the place of a parent, but just being there to support them, love them, and watch them as they grow up as well. Um, I think would probably be the biggest positives that, um, as far as like blending and then just being able to watch. as relationships form, obviously they got to figure out each other,
Mm.
and there's um, kind of like how's this going to go? But then like
Hmm.
being able to watch them like come together and they still argue just like sisters do. Um, but it's just really cool to watch that whole new family, I guess,
Mm. Yeah.
start to form. Um, so yeah, I think that's the biggest positive from like blending a family.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you get tossed right into it.
Yeah.
We right after got back from Wyoming, we had
Here we go.
three kids. So we're just we are in it, and we're you're trying to learn not only being married, but like we have very different parenting styles, and
Yeah.
like how do you navigate that? Um, so it's taken a lot of communication, a lot of work, a lot of humbling of like,
Mm.
you know what, my way might not always be the best way,
No way.
so but yeah, just um yeah, life hits you real fast, um blending, because especially looking at it from like a bonus daughter coming in, like how do you navigate that? Like,
Mm.
listen, I'm here for you. I'm a bonus dad, but I'll never take the place of your dad. So like trying to tread that line
It's
as
tough.
well while still being a parent figure, I guess. I don't I'm I think that's still just something that you got to navigate
Right.
just through life, and um, you got to just pray
Mm.
hard. Uh, uh, Prayer's been a huge thing of just, Lord, how do you want me to go about this? What's your plan? Because I don't necessarily know, right? And like I need your guidance. Like, show me how you want me to um, go through with this phase of life. Um, so yeah, I think those are the biggest positives, and or like a challenge of just it's all new and we're all just trying
Yeah.
to um, go through it together, and yeah,
Mm.
so
Yeah. I think something cool you said, it's kind of a bonus topic here, but so you were talking about calling the kids bonus kids. And I think I don't know why it just sparks this in my head, but how important in life phrasing is and how we choose to word things.
mhm.
Um, and I guess maybe, I don't know, what do you think about that? What do you think about that as far as, I know for me, and I haven't done my life story episode yet. It's coming eventually. But for me, my affair, my Achilles, the thing that has brought me the lowest is my anger.
Mhm.
I have a raging temper. And phrasing and how I word things has been the struggle of my life, is learning how to say things not how they pop in my head
Mhm.
and say things in a loving way. And I guess I can't think of a more delicate situation that you have to learn that is with the blended family thing, like
Mhm.
how a single phrase could be taken to mean something you don't mean it, with a child that is not biologically yours, but that you love like it's
Mhm.
yours,
Yep.
how important is the words, I guess.
Yeah, it's I think like I said, like God has a plan for you since before you were born, and I think like me being adopted, and like obviously I don't look like my parents, right? I don't look like my brothers who are biological to them. And like my parents, obviously they told me I was adopted,
How would he know?
right?
He's gonna know.
He couldn't know. But they never like I'm their son. Like I'm your mom, I'm your dad. Like this is your family. And
Right.
I remember a couple times growing up, like my brothers won't name them, but they've said things where
Yeah.
like you're not dad's real son and all this, and
Hmm.
like you remember that stuff. Like
Yeah,
and
you
you
don't
try not
forget.
to, right? And so I think um like knowing how that feels, I would never want someone else to feel that way, right? And going back to like kids, they didn't have a say. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a say in this. And, um, you know, family is where you're supposed to feel safe. You're supposed to feel like no matter what's happening in the world, you come back home and that's your safe space. That's where you're home, right? Um, and if you're putting phrasing, well, like with different phrasing, like, oh, you're my stepdaughter, that automatically puts like up a little barrier, I feel like, of okay, maybe I can't tell him this or her this because I'm not fully a part of the family, right? Whereas, you know what, you're my bonus daughter, you know, it's my job to help raise you. Like, this is your family, you're safe here. We want what's best for you. And so yeah, phrasing has a lot bigger impact than someone might think. And I think it just hit me now, kind of like being adopted and just going through life knowing this is my family. They never once made me question, you're different. Um, and now being able to live that out in my life, I think like I'm now kind of just putting it all together. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's that plays a huge impact on that. So
Yeah. Yeah, words are important for sure. For sure. Okay, so next thing, so I was thinking, I'm trying to I'd said it in the first little intro podcast I did, but the whole reason I'm doing this is there's a few, and we'll get into the honesty of that later. But um, one, I would say the driving force behind this is like my favorite thing to do other than bow hunt and spend time with my wife and kids. This is my favorite thing to do is have conversations with the people that mean the most to me. I have been so blessed, I said it earlier, to have some incredible friends with incredible stories. And we've had these conversations like for the last 29 years without a camera and microphones and audio boxes and all this crap. We've had these conversations and they mean the world to me. So what I'm trying to do with this podcast, other than have fun and talk about the outdoors and all that stuff that goes along with it, is highlight what each of my friends, what makes them so special, and things that I think they would be good at bringing to light about life. So when I was making the little rough outline for this discussion, something that has been huge on my plate recently, and I know huge on your plate, is time management.
mhm.
Time management as you grow your family, have a career, chase outside pursuits,
Yeah.
you know, how do we manage our time? I'm a huge, massive podcast listener. And Chris Williamson from Modern Wisdom said on a podcast I was listening to last week, your calendar is a better representation of your wealth than your bank account. And that's kind of been something I've been thinking about a lot
Mhm.
lately. And honestly, I've been thinking about for years, which is
Mhm.
driving a lot of pursuits I'm doing now is I'm trying to figure out how to purchase time.
Yeah.
Like, which is it possible? I don't know yet, but I'm trying to figure out how to buy more time. I'm not trying to work less. I'm trying to buy more time,
Yeah.
right? I want more time doing the things that mean the most to me. Um, so time management has just been huge. And especially with starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, trying to be more present on social medias to drive viewership to those things, it's just more, right?
Mhm.
It's even more distractions. It's more distractions from my wife, my daughter. I work a full time 40 plus hour a week job. I'm a full time hunter, a full time friend, like a full time son. I have so many irons in the fire. How do we juggle it all? Like
Yeah.
how do we legitimately do it? So, as someone who I know you work well over 40 hours a week generally in your line of work because that's just kind of the way
Yeah.
it is. That's just a choice that you don't really get to make. Um, you've got the blended family. You take good care of yourself. You work out. How do you manage your time? What are some tips you've learned, some tricks about managing your time, and what are some struggles you've had recently, especially? And yeah,
Mhm.
walk us through how do you juggle it all, Tommy Chafin?
Oof. Not well. No, I think it comes down to being intentional with
Mm.
the time that you do have. So for Bree and I are we have like like a family motto, but we also have like a marriage motto, and our word is intentional. Like we're going to be intentional in everything that we do. Um,
Like family value,
huh?
like family value type situation.
Yep. So
Okay.
like yeah, so on our wall we have each month a
Yep, we do that.
different
Yeah.
word. Yep. But like for our it's our marriage mission statement. Like for her and I, like is in the word is intentional, and that was one of the things that we discussed when we started dating. Is we need to be intentional in everything that we do, putting God first, because without that, we know how that goes,
Hmm.
right? But then also knowing that if we got married later on down the road, and now having been married, like we're gonna have a blended family, there's going to be times where we have no kids, and there's going to be times where we have all kids, and then there's going to be times where we have a mixture of both. So when we have the time, being intentional. So, and she is so much better than me at doing this, but like intentionally planning things to do, whether that be like, let's go to a park or let's go do this activity, things that I would never even
Mm.
think of. It just my brain doesn't work that way. But she is so she's what I aspire to be. Like
Mm.
just watching her like self-sacrificially just keep giving even when I know she's tired
I
or
know the feeling.
she's got all that like stresses at work or
It
other
just
stuff like
comes
that. It
natural.
does.
It comes natural to them.
And it's
It's
just like
unfair.
it's beautiful to watch, and like it challenges me to like, okay, I know I have the kids while she's working, so trying to model myself after her of okay, let's go find something, like let me plan something for them. And I'm nowhere close to being even proficient at that, but it's something that um, I'm aspiring to be. So I draw my strength and inspiration after her, um, because I think that's how you do it. Is we're not always going to be able to be home or things like that because we have jobs, we
Mm.
have things that you have to take time for yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take
Right.
care of other people, right? And I tell people that at work all the time. But when you are there, be present, be intentional. Because kids remember, they just remember you being there,
Mm.
right? They might not
Mm.
necessarily remember what you
Man.
do.
Yeah.
So show up and be there for them. Like even if you're tired, just that's what they're going to remember. And I saw uh, a video a couple of weeks ago, actually, even before we started talking about doing this, but it said your weekends and your off time are your kid's childhood.
Mm.
So, and it like got me thinking of like what might not mean a lot to me. Like this is them growing up. This is what's going to shape them. This is what's going to like
Mm.
propel them forward. So, what kind of example do I want to be?
It's
Because,
terrifying.
huh?
It's terrifying.
It is because,
Oh.
and then going back to your thing of like modeled behavior, like they're gonna
Right.
they're gonna grow up and they're gonna look for how we model that in a partner, like or a spouse, right? Like, and then they're gonna model their parenting a little bit
Yeah.
on how we did as parents. So that really just got me thinking of like it was also convicting because I can be like, I just want to scroll TikTok
Mm.
or
It's
stuff
easy.
like that. Yeah, or
Yeah.
like go play by yourself. And I still have a lot of work to do in that area. Um, but it's something that I'm working on. I think it's important for probably all of us, with as prevalent as technology is and social media, to kind of put that down and
Right.
just focus on what God's given you. He's given you a daughter, little baby on the way.
Mm.
He's given me
Yeah.
three girls, so
He's given a lot.
it's uh it's it's important. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that kind of walks into the next thing is setting boundaries with time,
mhm.
right? And I think, boy, step on some toes right out of the gate on the first episode here, second episode here, but um, it's important. And sometimes the very first people you have to set boundaries with your time is the people closest to you. I
Mhm.
know for us, first ones were families. And
Hmm.
it's like, right out of the gate, here we go. Sorry, mom, you just can't come over right now. Like,
Yeah.
because we need time.
Hmm.
And I think that's a tough one to learn, especially with the people who gave you life, is like how to regulate, you know, I, again, quoting my wife, she always says, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, duh, of course I can't. I feel like I've been doing it for a long time and it doesn't end well, but um, how to guard yourself by setting up boundaries to protect you, your wife, your girls, to make sure that that they are your priority. And you can weigh in on this, but I feel like for me, it starts with my personal boundaries. So my screen time,
Hmm.
and again, this is a tough one as someone who's really trying to have a social media presence right now to boost things. It's tough, right? And it's so easy to just constantly be picking up that damn phone like, oh, did I get another? Do I need to reply to this comment? Do I need to get
Hmm.
back to this person to try to have engagement here? Or on a much less exciting note, like my buddy just sent me a picture of something awesome and I want to respond to it, but
Hmm.
I'm laying in the floor playing with Sadie. Like, I don't want her to think like that was more important,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because even though my friend means the world to me, my daughter comes first, and it's hunting. Mm, here's my toes being stepped on. Boundaries with hunting. Dude, I could
Hmm.
do it all day, every day and
Yeah.
not feel guilty about it.
Hmm.
It is an addiction. I have an addictive personality. You can ask my wife. I get addicted to everything I do that I love. And I could hunt every weekend. This last season, I did. I hunted every weekend of whitetail season except like two. And it
Hmm.
was fun. It was amazing.
Hmm.
But as much as I don't want to admit it, it took a toll on us. Like we
Yeah.
did not get the time together that we probably needed with our schedules being
Yeah.
different. And, going forward, I hope to learn how to hunt the same amount without taking such a toll on our relationship would be great. But yeah, for us, I guess I'm gonna steal your thing here. It's been intentionality.
Hmm.
The way we have learned to set boundaries with our time has just being intentional about it. So we do the family values things just like you do. They probably stole that from each other.
Probably.
They probably had a long talk about how they'd get their husbands in shape to do things with them. But yeah, that little things like that, and all it takes is for me to look up a Bible verse that has to do with the word and write it on the bathroom mirror. We're way less organized than you. We don't have the fancy board. I take an expo marker and write it on our bathroom mirror every month. Apparently, we spend a lot of time in the bathroom. I don't know. But, it's little things like that. We do the same book, the same
Hmm.
marriage
Yeah.
devotional that you guys are doing again, it's obvious that our wives talk. We're doing the same book, and that takes us an hour on Tuesday nights. Not a big deal,
Hmm.
but it's carved out
Yeah.
for us,
Hmm.
and that takes intentionality because I want to sit on the couch and eat coffee, ice cream, and watch Netflix, and
Yeah.
not have to use my brain. My favorite thing to do is not use my brain. Like, there's nothing better than putting that thing on a shelf and just checking out and watching
Yeah.
some
It's easy.
YouTube.
It's
Or it's
easy. Yeah.
easy, right? So I think intentionality would be the word I would use to describe how you set boundaries. If you're someone who is struggling with that, I think that would be the start is little moves, right?
Hmm.
There's a old song, the tiniest moves you make. Um, I think they make the biggest lasting. If you change too much at once, I think it's a good way to end up right back where you started,
Hmm.
right? Because you can't keep up with it all. But if you make small, incremental, calculated adjustments to your schedule, and I know for me, one that really sucks is waking up early. And we talked about this last night on the way to Target to get a sound cord that I was missing because I'm the best podcaster in the freaking world. Um, it's waking up at 4 to 4:30 every morning of my work week, which sucks as much as it sounds like it does. But I don't, and this is tricky because I read my Bible in the morning and it's like, well, obviously God is more important than my family on paper. It's a hard one to swallow, just being honest. Like they're here and he's not sitting across the table from me like they are. So
Hmm.
it's easy to want to put them in front of him too.
Hmm.
But I get up and I give him that first time. but I do that so I don't have to not give that time in the evening to Sadie. You know, I do my cold plunge in the morning or whatever, and just have some time to myself so that when 5 o'clock rolls around and I'm home, I can try to be locked in with my daughter
Hmm.
and not have to be distracted by having me time
Yeah.
if I even need that. You know, I still have to work out in the evenings. I haven't came up with the ability to do that at 4 o'clock in the morning yet. We'll see. But sometimes I run, but definitely not work
Hmm.
out. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it just takes discipline and it takes, doing the same things over a period of time until they become habit. But, what do you think about the boundaries things? Have you had to set, I'm sure you've had to set boundaries with family and especially with your family, the way it looks, walk us through some things you've had to do that might be helpful to people struggling with time management.
Um, yeah, it's for like I said, for me, it's as far as like I guess the friends and social life, I'm a very big introvert. So like I said, I'm very, very, very private. So that is something I've been trying to work on is being more open and being, I don't know, just being more open. So like even just sharing tidbits is a huge thing. Um, but as far like so for friends and social life, like it's hard for me to make friends. So when I do, like, like actually putting time into them and like not just having them minister to me, but like
Mm.
how can I be there for you? Or like I think that's a cool thing about like being able to start doing our talks like at the end of the month and everything, like being able to check in and not just like going back to like the old me of like what can I get from it, but like how can I, either pray for you or like
Mm.
what's going on in your life and how can I be there, even if it's just like listening. Um, and then I guess as far as like family, it's I I I ask Bree just like what can I do for you, and like she'll be like nothing. I'll be like 5 minutes later, what can I do for you? It's just like not taking no for an answer. So like um I don't know. It's a work in progress for me as far as like setting boundaries because I have a tendency to either just go all board all the
Mm.
way to one end and then
Yeah.
like trying to having to rein it back, or then I don't do anything. And
Right.
then like, so for me, I'm not going to pretend I'm even close to good at all at setting
Mm.
boundaries. It's something that I am working on. So yeah, I wish I had more answer for that one, but it's like,
It's tough.
it really is. But I don't, it's something that I'm still like actively,
Yeah.
working through of,
Yeah. And don't let my speaking first make it
no,
seem
no.
like I have it figured out either, because I certainly do not have it figured out. I think a lot of our families being long distance is a cheat code. It's made it a little easier. Like all my family's in Ohio,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's made it easier because we only have one family we have to really like on a weekly basis have boundaries with, right?
Yeah.
Because mine are so far away. I mean, sure, there's boundaries when they're here or that they're not allowed to just walk into my house from out of state without calling me and saying they're coming or,
Yeah.
plan things with me because don't just show up. Like you got
Hmm.
to plan things. Um, so yeah, I think it's been a little easier in that way for us. But I think who you choose to have as friends also really helps with your
Hmm.
time management because, you know, again, back to the Modern Wisdom podcast, they were talking about this kind of same thing on a podcast I was listening to last week. And something Chris said was on the thought of weekend plans, planning weekends. If you don't want to go, don't go. If they care if you go, then they don't care about you. If they care about you, they don't care if you go or not. Just because you have free time does not mean anyone else is entitled to it.
Hmm.
I think the beginning of that, if they care if you go, they probably don't care about you. And again, got to be careful with the blanket statements, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like a good friend, if you're like, hey man, it's been a long day. I need time with my wife. we're not coming over.
Hmm.
Like I have to skip guys night.
Yeah.
A good friend's gonna say, I got you.
Yeah.
Like, don't miss another one,
Yeah.
but I got, you know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
Showing grace. Yep.
give him a little bit, but also like, I got you,
Yeah.
man. Like,
Yeah.
wife first, you
Yeah.
know? So I feel like maybe the biggest cheat code to time management would probably be surrounding yourself with good friends
Hmm.
who are going to be headed, you know, obviously we're all headed in our own direction, but at least maybe headed the same geographical location on a compass, you
Hmm.
know, like we're going north, we're going north a little bit different, but we're all going north, right?
Yeah.
I think that's definitely important as far as that goes.
Hmm.
So yeah, time management's a tough one. If anybody's a professional, drop a comment on time management. Maybe we can all learn something. Um, yeah, so you know, I think Vital Pursuit is obviously the name of the podcast. And something I kind of want to incorporate toward the end of every podcast is asking what I'm calling the vital question. And this is not the only question, but for me right now in my personal life, and again, you're going to hear more than you've ever wanted to hear about that soon. Um, a huge question I am wrestling with daily is how do I define success in my own life? That's my question to myself. So, that being said, that's the vital question that we're going to ask every body that we tie up and drag onto this podcast for the next year or so is how do you define success in your life for you personally? And I want you to answer this question for you personally. Don't answer this like I want this to be a little bit more of maybe an individual question than like, you know, just as long as, you know, everybody is getting along, like you,
Hmm.
when no one is around and you're in your thoughts in
Hmm.
your head, not like, how do you and your wife define success? That's not exactly what I'm looking for because I think that's different,
Yeah.
right? Because you and your wife are you and your wife, and you are you. So I think for you, when you're alone in the deepest parts of your thoughts, how do you define success? And just to clarify, I don't have an answer to this yet. So that's the best part of why I'm asking this is I want to know where everybody else is at with this one because I don't know, bro.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
much
know.
older than you and probably have a lot
You
more
are
wisdom.
way
So
better looking,
I'll
if
give you the
nothing
answer.
else. Right.
um, yeah, I've been trying to think about this, and I it's good we narrowed it down because I could give a bunch of different answers, but like I guess for me specifically, I think it kind of goes back to one of the main points is like choices that I've made, like going to Dallas and doing just different things like that, trying the Marines, just different things like that. Like I want to be able to, when I am on my deathbed, if I'm, Lord willing, able to have a deathbed and be able to look back on my life, I want to have as few regrets as possible. Like knowing I lived life to the fullest, to the best ability that God has allowed me to. Um, I think, and I've thought about that throughout the years, and that is one of the things that I keep coming back to is like I want my life to have meant something bigger than myself. So I think like it professionally, like if I could have had an impact on one person and maybe change the course of their life or um, save someone from making a series of bad choices, just being that light in their worst day. I think like professionally for me, that's success for me as being there for someone and hopefully one person in my hopefully God willing 34-year career when it's all said and done is one person can remember me and be like they change he changed my life, but also knowing that's not me, right? It's God using me, putting me in that situation, that call, that specific circumstance to be his light and also make a change, help them out of whatever they're um, going through. Um, so I think that's for me, for professionally speaking, that would be. how I would define success. And then I think personally for family life is one, like no, not having as few regrets as possible, but then kind of turning it towards um, my kids. Like, did I teach them about Jesus? Did I
Mm,
lead them the way that um, was honoring to God, um, where they get to know Him personally, right? And um, because what we say matters and what we say plays a huge, huge part in their journey to Christ, right? And it's our job as parents to model Christ's love for them and um, point them towards Him, right? And we all have our own choice to make. I can't make that decision for them, um, but I can teach them,
mm,
right? And I can model that. And I'm nowhere near perfect or even good at that, but it's something that I strive for and um, try to, like when we're going through hard times or struggles with the kids, like, let's pray about this first. Like, because I don't have the answers. Like, I'm going to point them to Christ every single time because knowing like my own life, it's Him. Like, it's not me,
mm,
right?
right.
Christ is the answer. Um, so for success is, did they come to know Jesus? Are they
Mm,
that's my main concern, right? Secondary, are they productive? Like,
hmm,
like
yeah,
are they contributing,
sure.
things like that,
It matters. Yeah.
Um, so I think for that, for kids, for me, that's my personal definition of success. Um, and then I guess more three parts is like marriage. Like, was I a good husband? And that doesn't just mean like, and I've had to learn this, it doesn't just mean providing, right? Like anybody can go work, but are you are you there for her? Like it's not just about working, it's putting in time. It's about listening. It's actually like not just listening, but then taking what you heard and acting on it, right? Um, so like did Bree feel loved? Did she feel supported? Did she
Mm,
feel like I was there for her no matter what?
mm,
Along that line, like, did I do everything I could for her, no matter like the cost to me, right? So I think for success for looking at it marriage wise is kind of I don't have the answer on that, right? We're still this is our first time through life, right? So we're still learning. Um, but
yeah.
pushing every day to make sure that she feels special, she feels loved, she feels taken care of, and not just because we've had this talk before, like she works too, I work, like it's not just about providing. There has to be something more. There has to be that connection. And that's why we keep coming back to that intentionality. Like, so I guess, yeah, for success for marriage, like, was I intentional with the time that I got with her? Like, she's my best friend in the world, and I love her more than anything. And it kind of goes back to like, even when it's hard, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is who I'm supposed to be with. Like,
Sure.
she's home, right? She's my home. I don't have to change anything. I can just be me. So I guess being able to like reciprocate that to her, did she feel that
Mm,
throughout our throughout our marriage? Was I a godly husband? Did I lead them, not just kids, but her too, like in our
right.
spiritual life? And that's something that I've tr- tried to make um, like a focal point, but there's times where I still struggle, right? And it's convicting. And even now, as I talk about it, I can still there's a lot of ways that I could do better in that. Um, but like I said, it's something that we you have to choose every day
Mm,
to to make those small decisions, like you said, the small decisions. are what's going to make the difference. So I think for marriage success, kind of everything, kind of everything I just said would be my definition of
Yeah.
success. So I guess it's more of a three-part
Yeah.
thing,
Sure.
but yeah,
You're the first person to answer the question, bro. You can answer it however you
yeah,
want.
yeah. So
Yeah,
eat that.
that's
So yeah,
good. No, I think it's good. I think it's really good for sure. Obviously, the fourth that you forgot to mention is being a really good bow hunter, but
yeah, that's a work in progress.
that's a work in
Yep.
progress. Yeah. Well, I think we covered just about everything we wanted to get into for the first one here.
Yeah.
Um, I mentioned in the introduction that you are a YouTuber and a TikToker. So, shameless plug. You got any shout outs? You want people to come check you out on there?
Yeah, I'm starting my archery journey. Like, what I've been at since,
Well, since you got married, I
yeah,
planted that bug in your head.
yeah. So what, 9 months going on. So I have a TikTok and YouTube, Explore Outdoors. Um, it's just Explore Outdoors. Um, and it kind of just documents my archery journey, trying to learn to bow hunt, and a little, just different things like that. So just first learning the proficiency, all that stuff. And then hopefully to get some good hunts in here this year.
Yeah,
And um, I've fallen in love with it very, very quickly.
like I
And
said, you would.
yes, yep, you are right. You are very, very right. So yeah, if you want to see that journey, it gets ugly at times, but I don't hide that. I think it's important to, like we've been talking about, just be genuine, and if
Be
it's bad,
real.
it's bad.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to check that out, go check that out. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And, hopefully, depending on how this goes, maybe we'll get together again and again, but we'll talk about some hunting stuff during whitetail season, do a
yeah.
little mid-season, see how it's going, see how you're doing, see how you're adapting to learning how to hunt. And there's so many new hunters out there, and the hunting industry cannot always be the most friendly to new hunters. So I want to make sure we are giving those guys a space to, I am pretty new to bow hunting. I mean, myself, I've only been doing it for 3 or 4 years, but I know I was really blessed to have the best two teachers ever when it comes to bow hunting. But a lot of people don't, and a lot of people don't have somebody who is honest about the mistakes and says, "Hey, I suck. It's okay to suck. Like,
Mhm.
we'll get better together." So I think that would be valuable to talk about that later on too. So, all right. It's
Yeah.
been awesome, man.
Yeah. It's
Thanks
been a lot of
for
fun.
thanks for opening up and sharing so many things that
Yeah.
are close to your heart and that are legitimately hard to talk about.
Hmm.
It means the world. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. No problem.
And we will catch all of you on the next episode. I don't know who that will be yet, but you'll know when I know. We'll see you out there. Thanks for listening. Bye.